what's going on over at MSNBC? They're afraid of freedom of speech. Elon Musk has threatened to bring freedom of speech back to Twitter. What does that mean? It scares people who voted for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Why does it scare them? Because they're going to let Donald Trump back on Twitter, and they can't have a former president having a voice in American politics. That's the kind of fascist authoritarians that people who voted for Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton have become. They are authoritarian fascists who are against free speech. They're against what makes America great. They'd feel more comfortable in places like North Korea, Saudi Arabia, and the former Soviet Union, ironically. So I'm about free speech and against censorship, and they're all for it. And you want to hear what they have to say? Here we go.
There are real and devastating consequences for using that platform to lie.
There are real and devastating consequences for using that platform, meaning Twitter, to lie. What about MSNBC when you use MSNBC to lie? Like the way you lied about Bernie Sanders and when you said that he was being propped up by the Russians. What were the consequences of that? Oh, yeah, that's right. We got a warmongering right-wing tool of the military-industrial complex in Wall Street as our president. So that was the consequence of MSNBC just doing that one little lie. What about the consequence of you guys lying about Syria? What about the consequence of you lying about Ukraine right now? What about the consequence of MSNBC lying about Afghanistan or Yemen or Libya or Somalia, which you do every day? So the biggest distributors of disinformation and lies is the government. The second is corporate news media. So to see them get their bush in a knot over someone else having free speech is kind of hilarious. Okay, here we go.
I think she just meant devastating consequences to their ratings.
That's what she means. That's right.
There are real and devastating consequences for using that platform to lie. And we've seen it. We've seen it happen. I wonder, when talking about this, it's kind of funny. Oh, Elon Musk wants to buy it, but there are massive life and globe altering consequences for
massive. It's going to massively alter the globe if people have freedom of speech, if people can communicate freely on a social media platform, unlike the massive global ramifications of having billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg own Facebook and Instagram. I guess is there a global? That's okay. How about having Jeff Bezos, the second richest guy in the world, own the Washington Post and have contracts with the CIA? That's okay to her. That's super. And it's okay for her to work for the military-industrial complex and Wall Street, which funds her paycheck. So that's okay. We just can't have free speech. That's bad. And they all want to make free speech seem tainted and dirty because they try to stick it to Elon Musk because people don't like Elon Musk because he's the world's richest man, and we naturally don't like the world's richest man. And so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to sully the idea of freedom of speech, which is what this country is built on. They're trying to make that dirty now by associating it with Elon Musk. It's got nothing to do with Elon Musk. These people are paid by authoritarians and the elite to manage the narrative, and that's why they're for censorship. That's all they have left is censorship. Okay.
Well, also, the Saudi Arabia, what's the guy's name? MBS, the guy from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the prince of.
Yeah, he was against it. And I was like, why is he weighing it? He was
against Elon Musk. You're saying that the leader of Saudi Arabia, MBS, is against Elon Musk buying Twitter, and you were wondering why that is.
Yeah, so I go look. So I'm like, okay, if they have Twitter in Saudi Arabia, that means Twitter must have a deal with the government to do censorship that Saudi Arabia wants.
That is right.
I didn't know for sure.
That is right.
So I go to Google it. I think I texted you the article from 2019. Remember Parler that they managed to destroy? It was all about how masses of Saudi Arabians crashed Parler, joining it because they were mad about the censorship on Twitter.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and so the interests coincide. I also like how probably half of these people saying this own a Tesla. Like it's the number one rich people car. But they all hate Elon Musk.
Right. Here we go.
I think people run wild on the thing.
Yes, 100%. But that's Facebook is really the.
We missed what she said there right at the end.
Musk wants to buy it, but there are massive life and globe altering consequences for just letting people run wild on the thing.
You can't let people run. So free speech is the equivalent to a corporate news host, the equivalent of people running wild. You can't let people run wild and just use free speech willy-nilly whenever they feel like it. We have to have narrative control by the elites, people like me and the people who sign my check. We have to control what the plebes are talking about on social media. Freedom of speech, running wild.
I love the foregone. Obviously, we can't have freedom.
Obviously.
like, what are you, an idiot? Like, the tone is amazing.
Obviously, we can't live by the First Amendment. Obviously, freedom of speech is not a value of Americans. Obviously, censorship is what a good Christian would do.
Yes, 100%. But that's Facebook is real.
She says yes, 100%. So where do they find people like this? Where do they find people just as dumb as they are on purpose? And they consider themselves in journalism and they're pro-censorship by the elite. So it just goes to show you why this country's in the shit show it is. Because people like this, who are the elite of journalism, who get millions of dollars a year to do journalism, are just that, tools of the elite. And they're not saying anything worthwhile here whatsoever, except shut up, plebes, and take your censorship. Here we go.
Where the real action is in that. So this is a very small company. It has an outsized influence because media people like it, politicians, world leaders, and Elon Musk. And so
she's employed by Vox.
Oh my God.
And she's against someone else having freedom of speech. Of course she's in
It's called Vox. I mean, it's
Jesus.
Is if he's not going to do this, and by the way, Twitter and some of its biggest investors, like Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, are saying no, and they're putting poison pills in. What is he going to do? He's going to have to somehow unload this 10% stake. And that's probably what he's going to have to do, or raise private financing, which has its own risks and possible rewards, but a lot of risks for him.
Well, I didn't play the soundbite, but he was asked if there's a plan B, and he laughed and said there is. We'll find out what that is.
That's what a super villain hero would say, right? He thinks he's Tony Stark, right? That's what they'd say. Whatever.
Right? Who signs your paycheck? Who's the super? So do you guys get a paycheck from a blue collar worker, or do you get it from a billionaire? I'm gonna guess you guys get paychecks from billionaires. Am I wrong about this? Who the fuck do you think you work for? You think you work for Mother Teresa, or do you work for the biggest fucking oppressors of the working class ever born on human? Who the fuck do you think pays your check?
By the way, Tony Stark was nothing but a hero.
But a hero.
Movies.
That's right.
Like Jeff Bezos, aka Lex Luthor, for example, is a villain.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos actually looks like Dr. Evil because he is, and he's in bed with the CIA, which is prosecuting Julian Assange right now, which is ending your free speech. But these people are all against free speech. So now you know why that quote exists. What is it? Now I can't remember it. Though the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And now you know why. The people look how nice they look. She's blonde with big smiles. She's wearing a great T-shirt and it's got a Rachel Maddow look on. And they all are for, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from. They're for censorship.
Dude, the one thing that they have a problem with a billionaire doing is letting you talk.
It's letting you talk.
That's the one thing a billionaire can't get away with in this world is not being on board for censorship. So
what Katie Tour and Kara Swisher are doing right here in this segment is what Noam Chomsky taught us is called manufacturing consent. They are there to manufacture consent for the oligarchy and the elites, and they are enforcers of it. That's who these people are. They look very innocent, don't they? But they're not on there because they're innocent. They're on this show because they're willing to sell out to a corporate bidder. And that's what they do. They're not there to bring you the news or the truth. They're there to gaslight you and manufacture consent, which is what they're doing. Here is... Don't oppose Elon running Twitter, at least compared to the status quo. But I do disagree with the more generalized enthusiasm for wealthy people and organizations' hostile takeovering of social media firms. That could easily go very wrong. Imagine an ethically challenged foreign government doing it.
Saudi Arabia?
They already do.
What?
Saudi Arabia already does with Twitter right now.
They just said they did that.
That's right. How about this? A short list of media. So this guy retweets her, and he says, here's a short list of media properties owned and run by billionaires. The New York Times, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, Boston Globe, New York Daily News, Bloomberg, NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, Time, Fortune, Politico, The Atlantic, Vanity Fair, The New Yorker, The Daily Beast, The Intercept.
Yeah, they don't give us freedom of speech, so they're good. we know what we should talk about.
And so who's got the final quote on this? JFK has the final quote on this. A nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its own people.
Well, they sure showed him.
That's right. And I'm not saying that they're afraid or she's afraid of the American people. I'm saying the people who sign their checks are afraid of the American people. And so they have to go manufacture consent for you also being afraid of the American people. They're just doing what they're told. They didn't decide to do this segment. They didn't decide the context of it. They didn't do anything. They were told to do this segment, and we don't have to tell them what their opinion ought to be. They know what their opinion ought to be. And so that's the opinion you get. And that's why, go ahead.
They just have contempt for the American people.
That's right.
What you hear in her voice is like these running wild, like animals running wild.
You just got to run wild. Just the unwashed having free speech everywhere. Even people who didn't go to college get to have free speech, or even worse. We're doing live stand-up shows in Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City, Las Vegas, all over the country. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for tickets. And single tickets now available at all venues. So if you tried to buy one before and you couldn't, single tickets are now available. Plus, while you're at jimmydorcomedy.com, why don't you become a premium member? Sign up to our mailing list so when they cancel us, we can still stay in touch.